What's up, everybody? It's your man, Brad Gilmore, the host of the Schmoedown Rundown. And before we start the show today, special announcement, I just want to shout out a new supporter of the Rundown, and that's Audible. Audible is the home of hundreds of thousands of audiobooks, and I'm going to venture a guess that if you like listening to podcasts, then you might like listening to audiobooks. I'm just throwing a shot in the dark there. So if you do, go over to audibletrial.com/Schmoedown right now. And what Audible is prepared to do for you, the listeners and the viewers of the Schmoedown Rundown, is they're going to offer you a free 30-day trial of their service and one free audiobook that you get to keep forever. So whether you keep the service, whether you cancel the service, you keep that audiobook forever. They have so many titles to choose from. Right now, I'm actually listening to The Lost World by Michael Crichton, and it's a little bit better than the movie. I'm just saying. Oh, man. My Twitter just blew up. But hey, that's not the point. The point is, if you want to get more stuff from the Schmoedown Rundown, more special episodes like the upcoming Rundown Schmoedown between myself, Frank Janisch, Paul Wolfe, and Aaron Turner, which is coming May the 2nd, the fatal four-way to the end to declare the first ever Rundown champion. If you want more stuff like that, then we need your support, and we need you to support our sponsors. So go over to audibletrial.com/Schmoedown. That's audibletrial.com/Schmoedown. Do it right now. I'd do it for you. All right, now enjoy the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Schmoedown Rundown. Introducing first, Frankie Janisch, and the host of the Schmoedown Rundown, Brad Gilmore.
What's up, Schmoedown fans? It is me, Frank, not Brad Gilmore. I'm taking over for the week. Brad's a little sick. He's under the weather, so I got Chris here with me, our producer extraordinaire. How you doing, Chris?
This is a very interesting week of matches. I can't wait to discuss this with you, Frank. Let's rock this sucker and bada bing bada boom this stuff to the end of time.
Yeah, we got some news items here we got to cover before we get into this week's past matches. Let's start off with just announcing again that next week we're going to have Critically Acclaimed going up against Superhero News. I'm sure you have a particular investment in that match. And then later in the week on Friday, we're going to have Roca Snyder. They're going to do battle, but the undercard is Knapsack and So it's a top 10 Lions Den feud that's going on. Also, should mention that if you're watching this or listening to this right now and you are a subscriber of the Patreon, the tier that gives you the match 1 week early, the Nost and Knapsack match is up right now for Patreon subscribers of that tier. So you can go ahead and watch that match right now, and we're going to cover that next week when it's uploaded to YouTube and the rest of the Schmoedown community can view it. And I guess, actually, let's go right into the Patreon stuff because Dagnino, he texted Christian, and there's a little exchange. I don't know if you saw it, Chris. It was posted.
Fantastic.
And Dagnino says, I get that week of Commissioner. He's like, you and your buddy Ellis are playing once we get to 2,500 patrons. So Dagnino's already got plans how to run the league, Chris. You love this idea, right?
Oh, I love this idea because back in for April Fools, I did this thing where it was Ellis versus Harloff. I made a little graphic and I totally made that entire Facebook group crazy, thinking that it was real or not. But you know what? It could actually be real, and that is something that I think every fan has wanted from the beginning. And when I actually started watching the Schmoedown when I first discovered it with Heroes versus Wolves of Steel, I thought there was a Ellis versus Harloff match. I thought that was just so kind of like, why don't you do that? That seems like such a like obvious thing to do when they've never done it, and I feel like they're savoring it, and this would be the perfect opportunity to kind of quench that thirst and get the match that we've always wanted.
Yeah, it's very enticing. Yeah. So we got to get to 2,500 subscribers. I think we're at like almost 1,700 right now. So we got some work to do.
I know, but we're getting there though. It's
we got some work to do, and I just want to bring up because they revamped some of the tiers now, the $1, $3, and $5 tiers, and maybe you're not a subscriber to the Patreon yet because it just wasn't enticing enough. But I think you should go take a look at these tiers because they revamped them. The $1 tier, there's more to it now, not just the monthly giveaway. And by the way, we do announce the recipient we do announce the recipient every month. First episode of the month right here on the Rundown. The $3 tier gives you behind-the-scene footage. So that's uploaded, and you're not going to see that stuff anywhere else. And then you also get the $1 tier benefits. There's a newsletter. There's, what do you call it, a State of the Schmoedown given by Christian or Thad. And then the $5 tier is the Patreon match that you get 1 week early. So if you wanted to watch Knapsack Nost, sign up for the $5 tier, you'll get that. And then you get the $3 benefits, the behind the scenes, and you get all the $1 stuff. So I think that $5 because it used to be 10. It used to be 10, Chris.
I know it did, and you know what? Brienne works so hard on these behind-the-scenes videos. These matches, like, they put just as much quality and production into these matches as they do the actual YouTube videos. And I feel like, yes, that they lowered the price of each, but doing that allows more views on these videos, especially the behind-the-scenes one, because I don't think many people got the behind-the-scenes tier, and now that it's kind of on the cheaper end, I feel like more eyes are going to be able to see the amount of work that Brienne has put into that production. And on top of that, more eyes, like you can say that maybe it should be more expensive to watch a match early, but if you can watch a match earlier, I mean cheaper, you're gonna make more, because that's more people that are gonna be more encouraged to donate because of that. And I think that this was a very, very smart business decision. I'm assuming it was Brienne, since she's in charge of the Patreon. I could be mistaken. You could correct me if I'm wrong. But this is a very ingenious idea by Brienne, I'm assuming. And I feel like moving forward, we might get Ellis versus Harloff sooner than we think.
Hopefully. For the $5 tier, I mean, you get the match a week early, then you get behind-the-scene footage, you get the audio, Schmoedown, State of the Schmoedown stuff, and you're entered into the giveaway. I mean, there's a lot that you get, a lot of Schmoedown experience you get for just $5. I know this sounds like a telethon ad right now, so let's. I think we've pumped this a little bit too much, maybe, but not enough. Yeah, but let's get. There's another news item here: Schmoedown Live that's happening June 2nd. And it was Christian just posted this, that if they sell out at the El Portal Theater June 2nd, that a national tour is probably highly in the cards. It's very likely that could happen. Chris, when you hear this news, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking like, why? A lot of people, not just myself included, because I'm on the East Coast. Even with you, Frank, it'll be less of a journey if it's on the East Coast than the West Coast. Sure, you're in Illinois. So look, you look at it this way: if he goes national, he can go down to Houston and maybe do something there with Brad. He could go up to Philly or New York or New Jersey, where I am, or he can go to Chicago, where you are. It could go down to Florida, where like Evan and Aaron are. It's so much possibility for huge fans who can't necessarily afford to go out West Coast all the time to see these matches.
Sure. Being
able to kind of experience it. And I feel like this is the amount of... I don't know if you guys realize how much Christian plugs this live event on Twitter each day. He does it phenomenally and massively, and he's getting this word out. I wouldn't be surprised if it sells out. And when it does, and when we inevitably do get this national tour that he's kind of hinting at and wants to do, the Schmoedown audience is just going to grow, and that's just better for everybody.
Yeah, I know the onus is kind of on the LA community out there, to go out to El Portal on June 2nd. The good thing here is that the June 2nd match is on a Saturday. The first live one was on a Thursday, so people got work the next day and what have you. But it's on a Saturday, and the El Portal Theater is in a great spot, because after that amazing live match, again, you have the triple threat Star Wars match, and then you only have Shy Rolls and team action. After the event, you go across the street, grab a few drinks at the local watering hole, and you have yourself a nice night out in the town after you see some really great trivia at the El Portal Theater. June 2nd, you go to schmoedownlive.com to get your tickets. Tickets start at $20, and there's a couple other tiers for VIP and meet and greets and all that stuff. So check it out, schmoedownlive.com. Now, next week, we have something also very exciting happening, specifically for the Rundown. And Chris, why don't you tell everyone out there what's going on next week?
Well, on May 2nd, which is actually the day after the critically acclaimed versus superhero news match airs, the beast himself, William Bibiani, has joined us, and he is hosting, along with the question writer Chris Kalinowski, the Rundown Schmoedown, which is essentially Frank Janisch, right here, versus Brad Gilmore, versus Aaron Turner, versus Paul Wolfe. Basically the Mount Rushmore of the Schmoedown Rundown, and it's going to be fantastic. It's 3 rounds. It's typical Schmoedown rules. There are a couple twists and turns. I'm not going to spoil anything, but you know what? It's a match. It's kind of like the unofficial. It's an unofficial Schmoedown, but it's on the official. It's going to be on the Collider Factory on May 2nd, along with SK Plus on May 2nd. So make sure to check that out. It's edited like the Schmoedown. I made sure to make it feel like a Schmoedown, to sound like a Schmoedown. The Schmoedown music I've used, assets by Brian Ward, I modified to make it my own and make it kind of feel very, very official-esque. So questions by Jeremy Adams. You're going to get Kristen Smith and Evan DeGraff cameos from Take 3. It's going to be a fantastic romp, and depending on the success and how much people like it, we may do more in the future. So it's just going to be a fun time. So next Wednesday, check it out.
Yes, as John Hammond would say, spared no expense. Spared no expense. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It's
I hope
really
you guys
fun.
Check it out and like it. Now, last bit of news regarding the Inner Geekdom.
Mm-hmm.
Christian again announced that there's going to be 5 singles matches in the Inner Geekdom, 5 one-on-ones, and those 5 winners from those individual matches will then compete in a 5-way match, and then that winner will play Jason Inman for the title. Chris, this is a lot of Inner Geekdom we're getting right now.
I before we started recording, I was actually talking with Frank that the Collision could literally be just Inner Geekdom matches if he wanted it to. But you know what? Hearing this just makes me think, God, we're going to get a lot of Inner Geekdom between now and July when Collision is going to air. And I just really hope that one of these matches is going to be huge fan of him, Robert Meyer Burnett versus somebody. Hopefully Rob can make a name for himself again in this league. He had a very terrible showing at the free-for-all, admittedly, and I feel like his story has so much possibility for this Inner Geekdom stuff. Jason Inman needs to lose that belt, and I don't know who is going to be able to actually take it from him, because we're going to get into it. We're going to get a Jay Washington versus Mark Donica match soon. We're going to get a lot of interesting stuff leading up to this. I just hope that the outcome is just going to be more surprising than we could even possibly imagine, because this Inner Geekdom League has just grown beyond what it used to be. It used to be just a glorified like 5-way every once in a while. Now it's becoming its own, and I feel like this is just going to help it grow, because more Inner Geekdom the better. We've had very few matches recently, and I'd love to see the tint of green more often.
Yeah, some of the players I'm thinking that will participate in these one-on-ones, it's got to be Rachel. You're going to have, again, Jay Washington and Mark Donica in there. I would expect, hopefully, to see Jared Haben back in there. And then maybe, it was teased at the awards about Sarah Stretton. I don't know if she's going to delve into Inner Geekdom. We haven't seen her yet this year. Maybe this is the time. Who knows? And maybe some other new people. Maybe even Dorian Parks.
Dorian, I'd love to see
back in there.
Him back, yeah.
So a lot of possibilities for those singles matches to add up to a 5-way match, and again, that winner plays Jason Inman for the title. When and where yet to be determined. Also, something you said earlier, Chris, kind of got the wheels turning. You could literally do just an Inner Geekdom Collision, like you just said, where it's Inner Geekdom matches, and you throw in a couple Star Wars matches. So
when I first read Christian's comment, I thought that's what he was saying. Like the Collision is going to be Inner Geekdom, but you know what? I would love that. Just having a segmented like event for a certain like
you could
literally would be amazing.
Number one. Yeah, you could do number 1 contender matches for just the Inner Geekdom in general, and a Star Wars number 1 contender match, and on top of having title matches for those specific categories, those leagues. So you could actually do it, but maybe we'll get there one day. Who knows?
One day.
Yeah, but speaking of all this Inner Geekdom talk, we got to get to the title match between Donica and Inman. Inman, this is his first defense of the title. He won it off of Hector Navarro, which was a well-earned victory. Hector is one of the fiercest Intergeekdom players we have, along with Rachel and Jeremy Johns when he's involved, no doubt about it. Going up against Donica, which way were you leaning, Chris, when this is going to happen?
Look, I was there live with you to seeing Donica versus Jared Haybon, and the first thing, I think I even told you this, Frank, is that I looked over to you, I'm like, they're going to... No, I don't see Jason losing to either of these guys after the match was over. I will say this, going into this match, I had very little hope for Donica doing it well against Jason, and actually, we're going to get into it, but I feel like Mark actually exceeded my expectations in a lot of aspects. I feel like he played a fantastic game, regardless if he's part of the Lions Den or not. You gotta commend Mark for just being on game. He played his ass off, and I feel like a lot of Intergeekdom championships aren't as good as this match was. And this match being an Intergeekdom belt, I think this is probably just skill-wise the best I think I witnessed. I don't know if you have any differing opinions for that, Frank.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple other matches that, on a collective level, as a whole, there's a couple that are very... It compares with the top ones, I'll say that.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I can't give you... I'm not going to rank which ones, but it's definitely up there in terms of knowledge that was being thrown out there from both players. But before we get into this match, we saw Ken Knapsack and Mark Donica, they kind of had a little powwow session. Ken Knapsack's giving a pep talk to Mark Donica, and Ken's great at this kind of thing. And again, these cutscenes aren't always, back in the day, last season and even beyond that, these cutscenes were more of like announcements. This is what's going to happen, or I felt, at least that's how it felt like this season. It feels more like these are just cutscenes. They have fun and see what's like the daily life, if you will, in the Schmoedown offices, the Schmoedown arena. So you just Donica and Knapsack just talking about the match. And
yeah, and also it feels like, I know how you say that some of the older cutscenes felt like announcements. They did. Now it actually feels like it's ascripted and it's cinematic, and it feels more, I think the best term to describe it is theatrical. You can tell that each character is playing their part. That's not Mark, and that's not Ken. They're playing characters. Right. And I feel like that's kind of what was kind of lacking in some of the older like cutscenes, is just that that era of acting, that era of theater. I feel like now we get that, and I feel like just this scene, the scenes last week, the stuff with Drew Guy, it's just all of this stuff is just fun, and it's for fun, and it started off the match perfectly for me.
Yeah, and starting off the match, we see Emma and Ellis at the desk, a new pairing, a new pairing here, and this one was a lot of fun because Ellis, he always talks about he can't pronounce stuff, and Emma's like, this is probably the only reason I'm here is because I know how to say all this stuff, but she's also great at the desk, just like Ellis. So let's get into the promos, and I have to say, when Ken said my name, referencing stats and all that stuff, I was like, whoa, hey man, I'm just delivering the facts, just the facts, man. So
it was funny.
These were pretty fun, actually. And Jason Inman in his promo didn't seem really worried. I mean, he has this we've talked about it too last week, and he's just got this really profound confidence. That the belt sometimes can change a man, and it seems like it's done it in not he. They talk about it in the match too, where he toes the line between cocky and arrogance and being a hero of the league. Chris, what did you think of these promos?
The promos were great. I mean, typical Donica fashion with his crossed arms and everything. But with Jason, I want to touch what you were touching upon with him, is that his voice, the way that he says his lines, the stuff that it seems very rehearsed, and that's great for something like this. And it feels very naturally rehearsed. And I feel like what Jason does is he actually gives the air of being an actual superhero, and I like that. The kind of cockiness he has is very elegant, but it's also in your face. And I feel like with Jason, his broadness and it's very angelic and very he embodies his character justice. So Jason killed it. Ken is one of the best talkers ever, and to have him talking for you, it's something that you would wish on anybody, and it's fantastic. So both of these promos were fantastic. I just feel like Jason probably nudged Donica off a little bit. If you're asking me which one was better, Jason killed it. I feel like he just embodies justice through and through.
You know, I like what Inman's doing, and I like to see the stuff from Mark Donica and Knapsack because when we had him on the show, you know, he talked about how they in the past they had a working relationship and that Knapsack really helped Donica, really helped him along, and now to see them on screen having fun here in the Schmoedown, that's some really cool stuff. I thought, and I like seeing that, and you can tell like they're very much friends and they're very much you know on the same page with everything they are doing for the Lions Den and their character work. I just want to see more of what at least these two are doing. For sure.
Because as you alluded to, the interview that we had with Donica was fantastic. Mark, thank you so much. I feel like having that backstory with him and Ken just embellished that even more. So yeah, I completely agree. So
now we get into the entrances here, and you know, Knapsack obviously escorting out Donica. Knapsack's checking the markers. He's doing the whole spiel, Lions Den spiel, making sure everything's on the up and up because you know the system is against the Lions Den, and so Knapsack's got to make sure it's a level playing field. And Jason Inman, he comes out, and I gotta say, this Man of Steel track that he uses. I love this track. I love this track. It's so good. And then who comes out with him? This surprised me.
Yeah, it did.
And it made sense even more when I was like listening to the music. I was like, it's Mark Riley, and he's coming out, and Jason Inman's wife, Ashley Robinson's out there, gives him the belt. He didn't come out with the belt. Ashley hands him the belt, and you know, they're doing a little prancing and whatnot. And it was great to see Riley coming out. He's a little more active now in terms of, since the free-for-all at least. I mean, he's behind the desk as well, but now he's getting into some of this other stuff. So I don't know, maybe he's got the itch back.
Well, look, I was when Mark came out, the first thing I thought was, is Mark now Jason's manager? Or are they making a new faction? That's the first thought I had. And that thought hasn't really gone away.
It makes sense.
It still makes sense to me now. They didn't confirm nor deny that. And to have Ashley again, it's good to see Ashley. I don't remember the last time we saw Ashley. In Schmoedown, we see her on Heroes all the time, but I mean on Schmoedown stuff, I haven't seen Ashley in forever. So it was great.
I think it was the first spectacular.
It might have been
the inaugural Intergeekdom. I think
we might have seen her in
or was it after? Well, she played Kalinowski.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was before or after, but
but
it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. Maybe the last Inman match or something. I completely am blanking right now. But Ashley, seeing her there was fantastic, and I feel like just Jason has his Justice League, and I can't. It's just him, Mark Riley coming out with Jason is just perfection, and I hope they kind of follow that up with something because I feel like something is there.
So let's get into the first round here, and this was a very high-scoring first round, a very competitive first round, and you know we talked about a little bit before how the level of knowledge was at one of the highest of highs we've seen in a long time in the Intergeekdom. Jason Inman, he scores 9. Mark Donica with 7. I mean, this is a great round from both players, but early on, Jason Inman is exerting his dominance. You know, he goes, I think the first 7 gets the first. Well, they both get the first 7 correct. They both miss on the 8th, and Donica trails off here. He misses the last 3, but Inman was able to recover on the last 2 questions, and it was a Marvel question, and then it was another like random comic book movie. I can't even remember the question. In the mixed bag category.
Yeah, but look, this round 1 at the start, I wish I could see what Chris Kalinowski was thinking when he was watching this first round, because what was it, the first 6 or 7 or 5 or 6 questions the crowd hated because they felt like they were so easy, and I felt like, you know what, that's just hilarious because like these 2 guys, if you also thought most of them were easy, but that's just because I think I forget who said it. I forget who said it, but one of the commentators, either Emma or Ken, said, it's just because everybody in that room was nerds and they knew everything. These questions wouldn't be easy to the general public from outside.
Yeah, Ellis was lost.
Yeah,
Ellis was a lost little puppy over there.
Yeah. So look, it's just the fact of the matter is that the questions were quote unquote easy, but I felt like just this was probably one of the more entertaining round ones I've seen recently, just because of just the questions being asked and the crowd's reaction to it, just on top of Jason and Donica just really fed off of each other's energy. It was just very kinetic. So this round one was a very strong one, and I think both competitors did really well. We cannot stress the fact that Mark Donica does know his stuff, and he is a good competitor, and he did round one really, really well. Both of them did well. So, I mean, through and through, it was a strong sitting.
Yeah, and I think, again, there's not a lot of game to go back and look at Mark Donica. This is like his third match, right?
Yeah.
So he's still very raw in the league. There's not a whole lot to go on. So I think that's also part of the reason why people were immediately picking Inman, and rightfully so. Even if there was more game tape on Donica, I still think odds-on favorite are Jason Inman. He's just been on an absolute tear. But Mark Donica, he still has to get in some more matches and build up that resume, build up those stats. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But 7 points out of possible 10. It's a very good showing. 9 out of 10, obviously a lot better, but it's Jason Inman, and I think we've kind of come to expect this from him. He has set the bar now at such a new height in the Inner Geekdom. He's really now like paving the way, and I'll say it. Rachel has got if she ever gets a shot at the title in the Inner Geekdom. I know a lot of people are going to go for Rachel, but I'll be damned if Inman doesn't get a majority of the community vote, because he is for real. Let's get on to round 2.
Yeah.
And Jason Inman, he defers to Mark Donica. Donica spins Star Trek, which, if you go back to his Jared Habon match, didn't work out for Jared and was kind of a saving grace for Donica in that sense. So he spins away from that and goes to MCU. He gets 8 points, goes multiple choice twice. He bookends that round by going multiple choice on the first and last question. Very strong performance. He was very much in control, I felt like. Chris, did you get that same feeling?
Oh, he was definitely in control, even going multiple choice twice. I mean, that was just understandable. He kind of played the game as strong as he possibly could and held on there as strong as he possibly could, and he couldn't really ask for much more. I feel like Donica's performance actually says a lot. I feel like it was smart for him to spin away from Star Trek, because God forbid he didn't know something, Jason was going to steal that right up. So MCU, Donica killed, and it just shows how much of a monster he is. Could he have, if he used a repeat and thought about it a little more, could one of those or two of those multiple choice answers been avoided? Of course, anything could happen, but I feel like just overall, Donica puts his money where his mouth is, essentially. So this was a good showing from him. Yeah,
at this point, Mark Donica has earned 15 out of a possible 20 points through the first 2 rounds. I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at, and I think that shows that Donica is for real. But then we get to Jason Inman, who initially spins Lord of the Rings, and then he spins again and gets Star Wars. And this is actually a really good sign for Mark Donica, because he is very, very good in the Star Wars, although his gameplay has yet to show it, but I think he's learning from those mistakes. But Jason Inman, being the veteran that he is, doesn't give up any opportunities, just like Mark Donica didn't give up any opportunities for steals. So, again, Inman keeps pace here and earns 8 points of his own, so he still maintains a 2-point lead coming out of this round, going into the betting round. And, I wasn't sure how Inman would fare in Star Wars. I know he's a big Star Trek fan and of other, DC and all that. Wasn't sure if he could perform at a championship level answering Star Wars questions, but he answered the bell.
Yeah, like, look, Star Wars, you wouldn't think he would do that well in, because usually if you're really big on Star Trek, there's a common consensus that maybe you're not as strong in Star Wars, and he kind of beat that out of the question. And I feel like this just shows how good of a matchup these two were. They scored the exact same points in round 2. They did what they had to do, and they backed up what they were saying to each other. And it just, on top of that, the atmosphere in the room was just really eclectic and really, 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 it resonated through that screen, and I loved it for that. And the fact of the matter is, you have Jason and Mark, because Mark could have easily stolen some of that stuff, because we were just saying that Mark and Ken are close. Star Wars rubs off on Ken. And I would imagine a lot of that Star Wars knowledge has rubbed off on Donica.
Donica had done a Star Wars podcast, Jedi Alliance. So
so it would have, and it would have been bad for Jason had he given up any steals.
Sure.
And he probably wouldn't have gotten the TKO that he got had that happened. But I feel like this just shows that Jason deserved to be the champion.
Yeah, so now let's get into round 3. The wager round was Lord of the Rings was a category. Both players bet 2 points. Both players get the question wrong. It was the battering ram question.
Yeah.
And what animal was it modeled after, or whatever the phrasing was. And it was a wolf, which I actually knew that answer. I'm surprised both of these guys didn't, or at least Jason Inman didn't.
Yeah.
So they both get docked 2 points. So no harm, no foul, really for anyone there. And now we get into round 4, the speed round, which, in 3-round matches, the second round is, eat or be eaten in that round. The 4th round in championship matches, this is mostly the deciding factor who's going to come out on top. And Jason Inman came out swinging for the fences on this one, and he absolutely destroyed these first 4 questions. Lord of the Rings, DCEU, Star Wars, MCU. And I wrote down in my notes that it looked like Donica didn't even try hitting the buzzer for the first 3 questions. And that was very peculiar, as if I don't know if he didn't know or he was just kind of getting the feel of the round. What were your thoughts on this whole 4th round?
I have actually very strong opinions about this 4th round. I feel like Donica would have had a better showing had he actually gone through a speed round beforehand. Because look, Jason's been through the gauntlet. He knows what he's doing, and he has his eyes on what he needs to do during the speed round to make sure it works. He kind of, I think he said in his post-match that if you hear the question and you know the question before it ends, you can buzz in and answer. So I feel like this is actually a suggestion for the production team is that have Chris write a speed round to test with people. Do a test speed round before you record so the people who are doing a championship for the first time don't have a disadvantage because they don't know the speed round that much.
we have this conversation a lot.
Am I making sense? Because
I know what you're saying, and we have this conversation a lot in the community, but that's also part of the advantage for the champ because he's the champ and he has played the speed round before. And if you can come up with your own kind of rigging in terms of practicing for the speed round. Plus, he's got the Patriots in his stable at his disposal for all the advice in the world. Arguably the best team at the buzzers. I mean, not even arguably. It's like a no-brainer, right? So you have that as a resource. They're going to tell you how to hit the buzzer, when to hit the buzzer. If he didn't get any of that information from the Lions, then the Lions did a disservice to Mark Donica. So I mean, outside of that stuff, I still don't think there needs to be some sort of practice round for a new competitor. That's just my opinion, but you have yours.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of you win some, you lose some. Just the fact of the matter is that Donica was at a disadvantage. He was at a huge disadvantage, and I feel like it could have been avoided had he at least tested the buzzers and stuff and got a feel for it, because maybe he thought that you couldn't answer before the question was answered. I'm just assuming. So I mean, it's just yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind that Mark Donica did his homework and knows the rules of the game, how it's played. I mean, he utilizes his JTE rules. He utilizes his challenge. He utilized everything you could at your disposal in this match. So he knows how to play the game. And if he didn't know that you could answer before the question was read and it was completed, I would ask him for sure just to clarify that. But I have a hard time believing he didn't know that, or in the heat of the moment, that's not something that comes to his mind, but that's something you just got to learn. Yeah. There's no practice round that can prepare you for the heat of the moment, the heat of the match.
That's true. So, I mean, you just got to deal with it, and the speed round is what kills you. If it kills you, it kills you. You just have to come back from it. So,
and look, he's very lucky that he got a title match as soon as he did. I mean, this is his third match. No one
fastest,
gets
right? The fastest
exactly.
Belt, right. Oh wait, no. So, actually, technically, no. Robert Meyer Burnett got the belt in one.
Well, match. I mean, that was a 5-way. This is a 1-on-1. So tomato. Final round here. Donica, he gets Indiana Jones for his 2-pointer, answers that correctly, and then he gets a Star Wars question. It's looking good for him right here.
Yeah.
He's going to get 2, 3 points, right off the bat 5 points to send it back to Jason Inman, but he is unable to, and
yeah,
that hurts.
I didn't expect this to be a TKO because the way they were playing up until the speed round was this is going to be tit for tat until the very end, and the speed round, as I just said, killed him. It really just made him dead on arrival. And even had he gotten that last question, Jason still had 3 questions to back it off. So it's kind of the silver lining was already there. The nail was already in the coffin. It was just a matter of when it was gonna happen. And it just that last round was just sucked because it just felt like there was so much potential in this going to the end.
Yeah.
And it didn't. But you know what? It's no fault on Donica. I feel like the fault is with him in the speed round. That is on him. But his skill set is still there, and he deserved to be there.
Yeah.
So the TKO, even though it looks bad, the way he played wasn't. So
right. So he falters on Star Wars and the last DC question, and Jason Inman gets the TKO to defend the title for the first time. First successful defense. This match was on track to be one of like the greatest Inner Geekdom, one of the greatest Schmoedown matches of all time. Mm-hmm. But you don't play to be in one of the greatest matches of all time. You play to win the game, to quote Herm Edwards, if you know what I'm talking about there. But I mean, Mark Donica answered 14 out of 20. That's 70% correct. Jason Inman answered 18 out of 20. That's 90% correct. I mean, the guy is ridiculous. He has the all-time highest accuracy percentage in the Inner Geekdom at like 82% or whatever it was I said in the stat segment. Jason Inman cannot be stopped. He owns that speed round, and that's going to be a problem for anybody who comes his way now because he can past competitor or hopeful competitors can look at this round, the speed round, and go, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of Jason Inman's overall performance in this match?
Well, Jason, I mean, he is a champion for a reason. Actually, in the way that he played the speed round, I didn't get to say how good Jason was during that speed round. He knows his speed rounds. He is now a force to be reckoned with that. Even had Mark Donica practiced, he probably still would have lost out from Jason because of how skilled Jason was with just getting to that buzzer, knowing exactly what question was being asked without it being finished. So Jason earned this. Jason earned the TKO. Jason earned his right to still be champion. And he probably will continue to be champion until he can face Robert Meyer Burnett and it will leave his sight. So, you know what? Bada bing, bada boom.
One thing I overlooked and I wanted to touch on was his Star Wars question, Mark Donica's, because it was the invasion question, and he thought Mark Donica said blockade, and he challenges that one. And look, you're on the ropes here, and it's a smart challenge, and it might go your way and might not.
Yeah.
It didn't go his way, and as much as I was rooting for a good finish here, I have to agree with the decision ultimately because it's not the invasion because there's already the blockade there in episode 1 when they get to the Trade Federation ship, and then the whole mess goes on in there, and then they get down to like the hangar and they see all the droids loading up, and that's when Qui-Gon's referencing the invasion. It makes no sense.
Thinking about it, though, I could see the confusion.
Yeah.
Because to me, like, blockade and invasion, if you're talking about Star Wars, kind of mean the same thing to a general person who's not a huge fan of it. So, I mean, it's just, it is what it is, but I feel like his challenge was warranted, but I can see how it was wrong. So
Right.
I mean, it was a good use of it.
Absolutely. And like I said, Mark Donica utilized every tool at his disposal in this match, and I think that just shows a good sign of how well he knows the game already, which means he's been studying up, he's been doing his homework, is learning the ins and outs, and the only way you can get better at the game is to play the game, and now he's putting all that practice into real-time matches here, so hopefully it pans out for him eventually, because I think he could be a real force in Inner Geekdom. This is just the beginning for him.
I think he's still a huge force regardless. Actually, if we get a Donica versus even a Cushing match, I don't know who would win based on this.
Wrapping up this match, we see Donica call out Jay Washington because he was talking a lot of smack from the audience. And look, I love Jay.
Love him.
But his numbers... Look, he doesn't want to hear this. He doesn't want to hear what I have to say right now,
Oh,
Chris.
goodness.
His numbers aren't that great. Donica's numbers are better. But Jay can come at me all he wants, and he doesn't want to hear this mess, and that's fine. I get it. No one wants to hear bad numbers. You only want to hear the good stuff.
Yeah.
I get it, right? So, but Donica, Jay Washington, it seems like this could be one of the singles matches that Christian was talking about. Yeah. It seems like this could be in the mix here. What do you think of Donica and Jay?
I would actually bet on that. I would actually bet on this being one of those, because look, you got to look at it this way. You have Mark Donica, huge personality. Jay, huge personality. Christian's probably looking at this and being like, "This is theatrical gold." And on top of that, you say that Jay's numbers are not the best. I can see that. But the way Jay has
I can show you.
Yeah. But look. The way Jay has played, though, his past matches have been fantastic. Like, he actually, even though he doesn't get as much correct or whatever you're saying, he actually sticks in there and knows how to survive. So I feel, because didn't he, like, for the Manager Bowl or whatever, he stuck in there really well, even though it's not Inner Geekdom. But I feel like Jay, just general trivia, just in general, he defeated Robert Meyer Burnett. He can do stuff that I feel like we shouldn't count out Jay, because he's learned to upset us in the past. So it could. It's hard because we both love Jay to death. Yeah. I just don't want to see him get pile drived. So I'm gonna root for. I can't believe I said that on the rundown.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna cut that or not. But look, I just don't want to see him lose. So it's hard. It's gonna be a great match either way.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to all these Inner Geekdom matches, because a lot of people in the community have been clamoring for more Inner Geekdom matches, and now we're finally going to get them. And if Donica and Jay Washington headline the first of the series of Inner Geekdom matches, I think it's a great way to start. And whenever this match happens, I'm just looking forward to that. Now, what I do want to point out, one thing Jen said, it was a great quote. She said that Mark
Donica
has gone full kitten. Did you catch that?
I thought it was that. I thought it was
my
great. God, that's
or was that Jen who said that, or I think it was maybe Emma? I think Emma said that, right?
Yeah,
that was Emma. I love that line. That was good stuff. I want that on a poster or a T-shirt.
That needs to be a T-shirt. Going full kitten.
All right, and then at the tail end of this episode, we had another cutscene with Dastardly Drew Guy and Dorian Parks, the new employee of Collider.
I was surprised by that. Yep. It's great to see
Dorian. And Dorian just is like, what the hell is going on with this guy? I think he's off his meds. He's crazy. He's talking about he killed someone, and Andrew Guy seems very pleased with himself. Again, this is continuing a line of run-ins he's had with various people at Collider, saying that he took down Merle, and we all know that is just simply not true in any sense of the word. Chris, where do you think this is going?
Taking down Merle and just taking the Jaws music and faking everybody out in a small room are two different things. I feel like Drew has a great imagination and a great. I want when he's smoking.
Imagination is the right word. You're right.
I want when he's smoking, but I might be looking too deep into this. But are we going to get Dorian versus Andrew Guy in the Inner Geekdom thing that Christian was talking about?
I don't know about that. I hope not.
I don't know. Because Dorian was Dorian, if you don't know who he is, he actually does the social media for Collider. He's the head of all of that. So anything you see on Facebook or Twitter or whatever is most likely Dorian. And you know what, he works his ass off. So I'm glad that we got to see Dorian in an after credits scene, even though it was kind of a short little bit. But you know what? Drew has just. I can't wait to see where this goes, because we got a lot of Drew this week, and I don't know if any of this makes sense. So I can't wait. I can't wait.
And so what I'm starting to see now around the community in posts and YouTube comments, and even commented on our video last week here on the channel, is this setting up some sort of at least an appearance by Dan Murrow, at the very least an appearance to shut up Andrew Guy once and for all about this nonsense.
This is building up. I'm thinking this is probably building up Dan Merle's eventual return, and we're gonna get Guy versus Merle. I feel like that's what it would logically be building up. But you know what? The Schmoedown can surprise us.
I mean, yeah, and I think at the very least, at some point, I mean, Andrew Guy is gonna have to, realize that he did not do what he says he did. And I think the only way to do that is if we get a face-to-face interaction, at the very least, between Dan Merle and Andrew Guy. And then I would love to see Andrew Guy kind of finagle his way out of that situation and clarify his statements. I think it'd be a great theater, if you will, just to see all that go down.
Theater.
All right. Yeah. So now we had another match, and this was another big match in Schmoedown. It's the #1 contenders match between Clark Wolfe and Mike Kalinowski. This all stems from, and Ellis talks about it too in the promo or in the pre-match stuff, that this whole soap opera, how we got here, was MO5. She wins the manager bowl. She has this #1 contenders match. She recruited Andraco, and then brings in Rachel and Clark, and then decides that she's going to give the shot to Clark Wolfe for the #1 contenders match. And then they go to Mike Kalinowski to offer him that that spot as well across the table from Clark. And now here we are, finally, after all of that stuff, we are finally here at this #1 contenders match. What was your excitement level for this match, Chris?
This match, look, I loved the cold open with Mike and Brienne. I think it was a match or two ago. I'm blanking, but that opening was really, really fun to watch because Mike had a lot of hope going into this match. And I feel like, but with Mike, the opening season premiere of this season, Mike's performance was very, very lackluster. It caused him to leave, and I feel like going into this match, I felt like Clark chose Mike because she thought this was going to be an easy win.
That's what Mike thought.
Yeah, that's what Mike thought too. Boy, was I wrong. This was actually something that I wasn't necessarily. I'm not a huge Kalinowski aficionado. I'm not huge on Wolves of Steel or Clark Wolfe. I love watching them perform. I love watching them play.
Sure.
I wouldn't say I was like vastly excited for what I was considering to be going to be kind of a bloodbath. Watching this, I was engaged, and it exceeded my expectations, and that's all that I could ask for. I don't know if you're in the same boat with me, Frank.
Yeah, this match was a little more surprising. I mean, well, not really, because I always viewed Mike Kalinowski's triple threat match, his performance in there, a bit of a fluke. That's not the real Mike Kalinowski, so I was expecting for... Yeah. It was, and it just happened to happen. It just happened to happen at the wrong place, wrong time, all that stuff, and it just all coalesced into a very bad day. Didn't stay for the post-match interviews, as Ellis talked about, and all that stuff. Now, let's get into the promos for this match. Mike Kalinowski, when we talked about it, he felt like he's the underdog, that maybe they picked him because of his performance in that triple threat, that he'd be an easy win. He's feeling very much like the world's against him at this point, it seems like. This was very, very peculiar promos here, Chris.
Mike's promos were Mike actually felt like himself. I felt like Mike, kind of not dissimilar to Jason, has kind of a very superheroic, angelic vibe to how he speaks. I feel like with Clark, though, the new hairstyle and everything, she hasn't... Wasn't me, or does she have a kind of new attitude? I don't know. She kind of, since she's joined the Fight Club, she kind of feels like she's a different kind of person, and I kind of like it a lot. We're going to get into her entrance, which is... oh, my God. But, look. Mike and Clark are, again, two people that are greatly matched personality-wise, so the promos, I feel like, they were, again, some of the strongest we've had. This was a very strong week for promos and personalities, and I can't wait to see, because they're taking Clark's personality into a different direction, and I can't wait to see where that goes and evolves.
Yeah, when I was out there for the awards, I interviewed Clark about, because she had put out a tweet, I forget the exact tweet it was, but it was something about bringing some of the sassiness, and she's certainly done that in her appearances this season, and Ken even acknowledges it, that when the Lions then played the Shire Wolves, And he didn't even want to look at Clark because she was locked and loaded. And we've said this on the show too the past couple of weeks. Andrew Guy, Lord help you if you get in Clark Wolf's crosshairs because she will just destroy you. And that's what I love about Clark. She has this. She can be very bubbly and friendly, but if you do something that doesn't please her, or you feel like she feels like she's been wronged, she's gonna let you know, and she's gonna come after you.
Competitive,
and very, very competitive. I love that she has this support group now of the Five Club to kind of give her that confidence, and that she can back up the talk now that she's teamed up with Rachel Cushing. And listen, let's get into the intro here because all of them were out there today, and this was such a great reveal that they did with Emma turning around. There was like a swipe on the screen, and then you see Emma turn around and hello, angels. Is that what she said? Was that
hello? She was Bosley.
Yeah.
It was actually
she was Bosley.
They actually, the editing style I loved because whoever cut this, they cut it like a 70s intro. Like as soon as they were introducing her, they would do the 70s wipe to Emma.
Yeah.
Turn around back. And we get probably one of the best screenshots in Schmoedown history, which is Clark Wolfe, Rachel Cushing, and Mark Andraco.
Oh, Mark Andraco. Mark
in complete
Andraco.
drag, and he looks fabulous, just super fabulous.
Oh, man.
And it was just so hilarious. Like, look, it fits them all so well. And I hope that that's a T-shirt. Like the Fife Club, and it's them three with the
That'd
Fife
great.
Club in a Charlie's Angels logo. Or somebody do that, Janine, or somebody do that.
Yeah, you get the Charlie's Angels, all three of them on the front of the shirt, and then you got Bosley / Emma on the back of the shirt. So you get everybody involved. And then look, at least Kalinowski didn't have to come out after that because he came out, did the smile, the point, the classic Kalinowski. Nothing wrong with that. But he said in his promo too, he's not come out and handing out gifts and whatnot. He's just he's got a different mentality this time. He's just come out and perform and show what he's about, and that's what his entrance was, really. I mean, he's like, I'm here, let's do this thing, and
typical Cal.
Yeah, I was ready to go. Yeah. All right. First round. We get into the first round here. Yeah. Interesting first round because I would have thought Clark would have been a little bit better than she's performed because in teams she averages 7 points a first round. I mean, she's one of the best in the first round when it comes to teams, and she's also fairly good in singles. For whatever reason, she just can't keep a balanced performance between singles and teams. But she gets 5 points here. Kalinowski gets 6, and the sixth question is an interesting point in the match that I want to put a pin in and get back to it because it pertains to his post-match comments. I don't know if you know where I'm going with this, Chris, but let's remember this sixth question here and what happens here because they both missed the question. It was in the category of directors. They both missed, but Kalinowski was not pleased with himself, and I want to get into that a little bit later at the end of this recap. But Kalinowski, he's still up 6-5. I don't think anybody really thought that he would have a lead here. What were your thoughts on this first round?
Well, look, I mean, this is where I was saying that this kind of started to exceed my expectations because even though we glossed over the fact, too, that this is round 1, and Mike Kalinowski used 2 J2E rules in round 1.
Yeah.
And
he missed on both questions, too, ultimately.
He wasted them. But look, I feel like that's usually a death sentence for anybody. And I feel like going into that, like seeing that, I was like, oh no, Mike's doomed. But the way he actually performed and he actually was able to pull some of the answers out of his head, it just showed me that he did study. He was working his ass off during this entire thing, and he performed to the best that he possibly could. And he earned being ahead by 1 point with Clark, and it just shows that, again, this is another match right after the last one where these two people, skill-wise, are at the same level, and it was just fun and engaging to watch. Clark was obviously annoyed that she missed the stuff that she missed, but you know what? Moving forward, you still didn't have an idea of who was going to win. So
no, yeah,
it was just odd that Mike used 2 repeats in round 1 of all things. But
a couple things with that.
Yeah,
a couple things with that. Mike, he has nothing to lose here.
He doesn't.
He really has
know.
nothing. Everyone's against him, and that's what he thinks. So he's like, hey, I'm going to go for broke. I'm going to use him when I use him, and if it worked out, it works out. Another thing, Clark's attitude during this first round, usually when we see her in big matches, big situations, very tense, very intense, I should say.
She was laid back.
And she was very laid back here, and she was, and I think it's partly because she doesn't dislike Mike Kalinowski. Mike Kalinowski's a great guy. It's not like she's going up against a Lions Den member or somebody else like that. So, because she was even complimenting him, good job, Mike, and she was just there having actually a good time and taking the pressure off herself, because I've said this in the past that you've set up this match. You've been given this opportunity. Now you've set up this matchup, and the pressure's on you to deliver a win, because that's how you set it up, to win. And that's how Mike Kalinowski took it. And so for her to be very relaxed in this situation was a little surprising to me, but in the end, it obviously worked out for her. Let's go right into round number 2, because Kalinowski, he goes first because he has the lead, 6-5, and he spins away from drama, ends up on Spielberg, and I think that was a great category for him. He gets 6 of a possible 8 points here. Is fortunate enough that Clark Wolfe does not steal on that last 4th question. So now he has, some sort of advantage, I think, in his mind, that he performed very well in the first and now here in the second. And now it's up to Clark. And second rounds have not been kind to Clark in the past. What do you think of Kalinowski's performance, and what were his chances from here on out?
Well, look, Mike's performance was fantastic. I feel like going into it, as I was saying, he wasn't going to do well because of his previous performance in the season premiere. But this one, when he got that, he had confidence. And he pulled out some stuff that I didn't expect him to pull out. And I feel like, actually, if you look at what Clark Wolfe was doing while he was doing this, I think she was completely taken off guard. Because I feel like what you were saying, how she was very cool, calm, and relaxed, I think she was coming off as, this is going to be an easy win. I'm going to push right through and we're going to get to this championship match. And no. Leaving Mike's round, he killed it. Like, I felt like he actually did a solid job. And I don't know if Clark did you expect him to do as well as he did, Frank?
Actually, in this round, I did.
Yeah, okay.
With Spielberg, I did. I did expect him to have a pretty good round. And he proved me right. Yeah. So that was nice, because he needed it. He needed this performance, because when Clark spins horror,
God, yes.
Ooh, I mean, you could see on his face, like, you got to be kidding me. Like, I'm doing everything I can. Yeah. And he did everything he could. He's doing what he needs to do here, and she gets a break, like spinning horror. But to Clark's credit, she said, "This isn't a wrap. I can get horror and not know some of these questions. They can dig deep here." And so she was mindful of that fact. And there was a couple questions here and there where she had to dig deep, but she gets the full 8 points here, and that is, such a swing of a point swing here, because instead of Kalinowski was leading after the first, now Clark's leading after the second, up by 1 point here. And something to point out for Clark, she's only had a perfect 4-for-4 second round twice before this, but this is the first time she's ever has done a clean sweep where she's earned all 8 maximum possible points here. So it was a first for her to do that, and she got horror, and that's a huge break for her in a sense, because Kalinowski talks about it in the post-match that had she not gotten horror, he feels like he could have had this match, and she got a break, and that's, again, we were talking about it last match. 3-round matches, the second round really can make the difference, and the championships is that speed round. But here we are, seeing the second round have such an impact on this match, and it was such a negative aspect for Kalinowski here. It just and again, he has these feelings of him against the world, and now she gets horror. It's just all stacking up against him.
It really sucked, because we were just discussing how well he did in Spielberg, and I felt like he thought that he killed it. He thought he had it in the bag, and Mama Luck just came in and swiped that from him, because, look, we all miss nightmares, and when she sweeped it, I don't think it was a surprise to anybody that Clark did sweep. She was very confident and collected, like saying, yeah, I'm probably not going to get all of these, just being kind of reserved. But the fact that she swept it, nobody was surprised. Do note, too, that the wheel itself had a James Bond slice, which I think that's the first appearance of the James Bond slice in actual gameplay. It's back. I was glad to see it. I was hoping Mike would have gotten that, because he probably could be telling a different story had he gotten it. Because if he sweeped round 2 as Clark sweeped round 2, it would have been just a massive amount of difference.
He would have won by 1 then, I believe. It had worked out that way.
It would have
something
been,
like that.
Yeah,
the math would. I think he would have ended up winning the match had the rest of the round played out, or the match played out.
Any which way you look at it, it could have been either or. Because when we get into this final, quote unquote, last round 3 before the sudden death, we were singing a different tune. So what Clark did was phenomenal, but you know what? None of us were surprised. She killed horror, she knew horror, and she slayed it.
Now, going to this 3rd round, Clark has a 1-point lead. She's up 13-12. Kalinowski, he gets his 3 and 5-pointer. Tom Cruise, Matthew McConaughey. Clark Wolfe, she gets her 2, misses the 3, gets the 5. And we are off to sudden death. Who would have thunk it? Not I, Chris.
I didn't think this was
crazy.
Sudden death. No.
This is crazy.
The way that sudden death works now is fairer, but I felt like it was a little. It sucked that it was a little, admittedly, anticlimactic. I didn't expect Mike to lose on Mr. Popper's Penguins, but he did.
Yeah,
and it was sad, but you know what? Clark winning, it's great. Because it just shows that her plans have worked, and now she gets that shot. Mike, on the other hand, I feel like he shouldn't be discouraged into coming back. I feel like he played a fantastic game. People lose. That's the way the game is. You either win or you lose, and sometimes you lose. And I feel like it sucks because he played his heart out. He tried his hardest for this. He really did.
Yeah, and I think this, to go out the way he did in that sudden death, that's a bummer. But, I think he proved to everyone in the league and to the community out here that, he can still put up a hell of a fight. And, look, he answered 11 of 16 for 69% correct. Clark Wolfe, just a little bit better here, a little bit more fortunate, if you will. She answered 12 out of 17 for 71% correct. It's one of her better matches to date, and certainly one of Kalinowski's better matches as of late, especially when you take into account that triple threat. But let's go right into this post-match, because we talked to Clark Wolfe first, and this was a funny kind of interview because I think Jen only ended up asking like 2 questions, and it just seemed like the Five Club kind of just took over and did almost kind of like their own thing there, and it was funny, and it was enlightening to see, Clark talk about how she felt about coming into this match and how she didn't want to let down the Five Club. And then we see Sam Levine come in and say some kind words, and they're very cordial. And Sam Levine's still very aware that Clark Wolfe is 1-0 against him, but now we're going into a title match show. And Clark Wolfe recognizes it's going to be a tough match, and she's just glad to be there and that they got to this spot.
It's only a matter of time, I think, before Above the Line is going to be part of that Fight Club. I just feel it. Something about that just makes it seem like that would be a natural fit. I don't know. But you know what? Clark versus Sam is going to be interesting because Sam has great relationships with all three, everybody in the. So I don't see this championship match being anything venomous. I feel like it's going to be friendly competition.
Absolutely.
How badly Clark is going to lose to Sam is just name of the brick.
Oh, you're calling it already.
I feel like Clark probably doesn't have look. I love Clark to death, but I feel like Sam has probably got this. I don't know if he gets this. He retains the belt how many times? Like 3. It would be
he just retained it against Rachel.
Yeah.
That's his first offense.
Oh, twice. It would be
twice. This is his second defense.
Twice.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like if he does it, he's a proven monster. Why bet against the champ? I would love to see the underdog Clark get it and have a female person have a female have the belt. That would be fantastic. It would be amazing. Do I think it will happen is another story, but you know what? again, I want people to exceed my expectations, so I'm excited to see that match.
Sure, and Emma talked about getting a training regimen, and I have to believe that's going to include the speed round buzzers and all that stuff. So
that'll be good.
She's going to get some practice there, and I have to say that when I was there about a month or a month and a half ago away, I heard some talk of the Five Club about getting some sort of like study group together and studying up together, and they're a really good unit together. So I think they're more than helping each other out in any way that they can. So I think they have a really good thing going over there, and I can't wait to see this Clark Wolfe and Sam Levine match. I think it's going to be fantastic.
They're on a roll because Mark just won, Clark just won, Rachel. The Shirewolves have won. So the Five Club is looking to really make a name.
But here's the thing, Chris.
Yeah.
When you go up,
you have to come down.
Sometimes you have to come down, and I don't want to put that out in the universe. I know I just did, but let's not get too cocky of ourselves. If we're fans of the Five Club, let's stay a little grounded, a little humble, and because they haven't really actually accomplished that much or really accomplished anything. Yeah, this was the first step in the direction of that for the Five Club.
A lot of matches in a row that have aired have been very fortunate for them. So we'll see. I don't know where it's building up.
Yeah, but now I want to get into this Kalinowski post-match, because this was very interesting, and it's going to tie into a couple things that happened. One of the things that happened at the live show that was just a little while ago. But Kalinowski, you're right, he had a good showing. He should not be down on himself. I wouldn't be, and he's not. He felt like he had no support there this match. He talked about how Roxy and Johnny weren't there, that people that had rooted for him in the past seemed to have flipped their allegiance to root for Clark, and that was very off-putting for him, very jarring, I guess you could say. But remember when I put that pin in round 1, question 6? We heard something from the audience, and that person said, "Trust yourself." And Kalinowski, he repeats it to himself. He's like, "You're right, trust myself, just trust myself." And Kalinowski, when he's talking about he had no support, he said he was very surprised that this one person that he wasn't going to name was there, kind of right. If to everyone out there, if you didn't hear it, turn up your volume.
I may or may not put a clip of it right now.
God, trust yourself, Dennis. Trust myself. Trust myself.
But that voice very much sounds like the one and only John Roca.
Yeah.
Now this is very interesting for a couple of reasons. One, why is John Roca the only one supposedly on Kalinowski's side here? Because we all know that John Roca is very friendly with Clark Wolfe, very friendly with Emma Fyffe. Now they've kind of patched things up, right? Now Kalinowski, he's saying, I'm with nobody. I have no idea what's going on with Brienne. She wouldn't even give him a yes to giving him the title shot for Inner Geekdom. So maybe that relationship is not as tight as we think it was or could have been. But then you got to think back to when Roca said at the live show, the 4 Horsemen are coming back. And on this show, when we talked to him, he said there might even be a 5th member. Is Kalinowski possibly... Could he possibly become one of the Horsemen now? You have to think so, somewhat, don't you think?
I wouldn't put it. I would actually say, like, I remember talking to John after it was during one of the Take 3 sessions. I don't remember if it's in the edit or not, but when I asked him, had Robert Meyer Burnett won the belt and not won the belt, would he have still been in the 4 Horsemen? And he said whoever won would have been inducted into the Horsemen out of that 5-way. So it could have been any of them. What I feel like is, had Mike won this match, we would probably have that answer, and he probably would have inducted him into the Horsemen after this match. I feel. I'm not quoting John. He could correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like had that happened, it would have set that up, and we would have gotten it. I feel like now it could still happen. I would love to see Mike in there, but going off of that knowledge, had Jason just won his match,
Yeah.
I would have thought Jason would have been an easy fit for the Horsemen.
We talked about
Roca in
this
sight.
last week, right?
Yeah, no Roca in sight after he won his belt back. So that's out of the question. I don't know if maybe John isn't after just winners anymore, but people with good performances, and he can get him the records that he wants too. So I'd love to see Mike be a full.
It's interesting. It's interesting because
just the thing
it seems
is,
like
if
Kalinowski is a little lost out there, and he's looking for some sort of support, and he sees
no
Roca,
land.
right, and he sees Roca off in the distance, trying to cheer him up, saying, "Not get down on yourself, trust yourself." Mm-hmm. Could be.
So you just have to make the assumption that why wouldn't Roca have inducted him right there? It's just,
and why wouldn't Kalinowski say his name? It's not that hard to be like, I appreciate Roca. Give me some words of encouragement. But if we're going this way, that's why you wouldn't say his name, I think.
Maybe we'll find answers later. I feel like it's too ominous not to follow up on. Something is cooking there, and I just hope that what's cooking is delicious. So
there's a lot of reveals that I feel are coming. Not only the Horsemen, but what's going to happen with this Andrew Guy stuff.
A lot of shit.
I mean, it's exciting times for sure in the Schmoedown.
Story. Yeah.
We got one more thing here to wrap up, and that is, of course, the Kingsman and Elliot Dewberry scene here at the tail end of this video.
Yeah.
And it's Kingsman finally accepting the challenge to face the Wildberries, and it's just Dewberry rummaging through
it was great.
the refrigerator. It's and he's right. I'll tell you what, he's right about this one thing, Chris. If it's pizza on a bagel, you can have pizza anytime.
Yeah,
that is a fact.
It's delicious.
But I love this
bites.
interaction between it's bagel bites, man. I love this interaction between Dewberry and the Kingsman. Dewberry's handling these two guys all on their own because he's a seasoned pro at this stuff, and Kingsman, they're kind of talk some game and whatnot. But we're gonna see Kingsman and the Wildberries do battle here sometime in the future.
Just anything with Wildberries. Anything with the Wildberries is going to be comedy, entertainment gold. Kingsman, I mean, their performance was lackluster-ish, but you know what? Their personalities were fantastic.
But I got to give them a pass on that first performance. It's their first time.
It was their first time, yeah. So, I mean, this is their second time they're going up against probably, objectively, the most popular team, maybe one of the most popular teams at the Schmoedown, going up against them.
They're probably playing the best worst team.
The best worst team. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's going to just be an entertaining match. Whether all four of them combined get a point that's a 2-digit number is going to be beside the point. The fact of the matter is, this is just going to be a fun match, an entertaining match, and you know what? It could just be 3 rounds of bullshit. People are going to eat it up.
It's going to be entertainment, though.
It's going to be entertainment. So I hope there's a lot of story there because I feel like the smack talk and the post match are going to be what people are going to be looking forward to the most. The game is going to be great, but just the smack talk and everything is just going to be phenomenal. So you have so much to look forward to. That isn't a Patreon match, right? It's just
I don't know, but it certainly seems like it could be.
Seems like it could be, yeah. So
yeah,
we'll see what Brian decides with that. But anyway, either way you look at it, it's going to be a fun time.
Yeah, there's a lot to look forward to, and something we got to look forward to next week, again, is Critically Acclaimed in Superhero News, and then later on that Friday will be the doubleheader, Roca Snyder, and the Nost Knapsack match that was on Patreon already, so you can head and watch that if you're a part of Patreon. But Chris, let's get out of here. Where can the good people find you and all your work?
Well, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ChrisCluck8788. Those numbers mean nothing. You can find me on YouTube at Take 3 Productions. You know us. We do Schmoedown reactions. We have the Reactors Summit, which is similar to the Rundown, but with a huge slew of people. You can also find me hosting my show, Suddenly Soundtracks, where we go through a movie musical song by song and judge a movie solely based on the soundtrack that it provides. And make sure to tune in next Wednesday for the Rundown Schmoedown. It's going to be awesome. Turner, Gilmore, Janisch, and Wolfe duking it out. Gonna be freaking hilarious, and it's a great match. So check it out.
Next Wednesday, May 2nd. That'll be up on SK Plus
and
the Collider Factory feed. I'm Frank Janisch. That's right. You've been listening to this voice and watching this face. Sorry. Find me on Twitter and Instagram at FrankieJ29. Follow the show, the Schmoedown Rundown, at Schmoedown RD. And check out our Instagram page at Schmoedown Rundown. We post some behind-the-scenes stuff when we can, and videos and clips from the show to catch up, and interview clips. So if you don't want to watch the whole show, just catch a clip on our Instagram or to Twitter too. But until next week, we wish. Hopefully Brad gets better, Chris, because we need him back.
Yeah, he has a cold right now, so hopefully
Brad gets back, and we'll have him back next week. And we will also see you guys next week